All right, it's confession time. I have been trash talking my in ground garden for years, but this season, it clapped back and hard. It made me realize I've been overlooking some serious benefits, and maybe, just maybe, I owe it an apology. When we started this garden, we started off using the no dig gardening method, which means we laid down a couple of inches of cardboard and we put about 6 inches of soil on top and we planted in that soil on top. So it provided a very healthy, productive garden. The only mistake we made is that we didn't have proper gardening beds. We used like a circular mound strategy. I don't know what I was thinking, but even still with the rectangular beds, we had a lot of weeds. So over time, we started digging in the bed because we were trying to dig out all the crabgrass and all of the weeds. We also didn't have a good pathway management strategy, which really contributed a lot to weeds. We still get a lot of weeds now, but with the landscape fabric, it really makes a huge difference and it makes it look a lot more organized. So here, this is the bed that I grew a lot of kale in and broccoli in this season. I have a bunch of tatsoi that's popping up. I've actually been spreading it to other areas in the garden that we have empty spaces in. We also have some parsley that's growing here and some rudbeckia and echinacea that I planted a while ago and carrots. So we've been harvesting carrots out of here. We had some carrot ravioli with the carrots that we harvested last week, and that was really good. So this is going to be replanted out. I just don't know with what yet, besides the tatsoi and bok choy over there. I took out all of the kale because it was pest ridden and the heat really got to it. This oregano just needs to stop growing because every time we trim it back, it takes over again. We have some beets over here that we'll use for beet juice. And this calendula has really spent itself, even though there are a few more flower heads. It looks like it's really spent. This candy cane red pepper. Wow, look at that. Look at that. So we'll be harvesting those pretty soon. I think there's one, actually. There's a red one right here, so we might go ahead and grab that. Also the strawberries. It looks like strawberries are starting to come back. Let's hope that we actually get some and the slugs don't eat them all. We have the Swiss chard that's been here for some time that we've been slowly harvesting. We've had our fair share of greens this season. And this tomatillo that I actually thought wasn't going to be pollinated is actually pollinated. So we might get a few tomatillos. I definitely need to stake this up because it's just kind of laying all over the place. So that's this garden bed, but you can see how the pathways really make it easy to navigate. Over here, I just have a few blueberries. So these are green onions that I planted, some Mexican sage right there, blueberry, and lots of fennel going down this one. So fennel, I took out the Brussels sprouts that were right here. There's, actually one left. There's another tomatillo. I did spread out some tatsoi. You probably can't see it. It looks a little rough. It will bounce back. There was a lot of kale and arugula here earlier in the season. That's been pulled out. And you can see that there are lovely caterpillars all over my fennel, which I'm not too thrilled about. I cut back comfrey that was here and just laid it out. This is what I do with the comfrey. I just cut it back and I just lay it out in the empty spots that I have. And I want to plant this out with more perennials. This is a rosemary that was swamped with comfrey, some more fennel, some more blueberries, and these are pole beans. So noodle beans and pole beans that hopefully we'll get a harvest on before the end of the season. And this here is some bee balm. This is a really nice smelling bee balm too. I will not be ashamed to show you guys this weed-ridden garden bed here that has all of this kale that is just not doing well. There's still some carrots in here that I will have to dig up, but there's a lot of grass. This is burdock here, this weed that's growing. But yeah, this needs to be cleaned up really bad. But I have to show you guys what's really going on, the real truth here. On this side, I'm ready to plant some more stuff. At this point, I'm doing quick growing vegetables and vegetables that will do well come fall. So that could be carrots and radishes and kale and the brassicas all over again. But there's a lot of peppers in here. So there's some beets, peppers. I think these are jalapenos. I have to go on the other side. Marigolds. This is a big squash that probably needs some water, but I was actually going to use this to prove a point. This squash is an example of why this garden has gained my respect. And it's because the need for watering is so much less compared to the raised garden. I literally planted this. Actually, I'm going to do another garden confession here, is that when I plant things, I sometimes don't water them in right away. And I planted this, didn't water it in right away. I actually transplanted it. And look how big this thing is. It's a pretty big squash. Has a lots of little baby squash on there. And I haven't watered this thing in quite a while. I think my husband watered it one time, but we rarely water this garden. Usually the thunderstorms and the spring rain is enough to keep this garden watered, unlike the raised garden bed where the plants go dry and they die. I mean, it's pretty bad. So number one benefit of this garden is the lack of watering requirement, or I think that makes sense. The minimal needs of me to water it. This right here is a lemongrass, and it will get much bigger than this, and it will probably take up this whole area. And I use lemongrass for freshening the house, like the smells. You can boil it and it makes your house smell really good, but mostly we use it for tea and for cooking, for like soups and stuff. This kale needs to come out, so I'll be taking that out, replacing all this stuff. These cabbages probably can come out. And this Thai basil here is self-seeded. Look how healthy it looks. Yeah, these cabbages can go. And this lemon balm has been hacked back a few different times, but it is just coming back like a monster. So lemon balm I use for tea. It helps for sleeping, and it just tastes good overall. Ooh, a bug just hit me. Coming around this side, here we have more peppers. Most of these are poblanos and jalapenos. So here's a little baby poblano, some jalapenos. This is another Thai basil that's self-seeded, so I'll harvest this. With the Thai basil, it's okay to have these purple flowers. With the sweet basil, once you start seeing flowers, it definitely changes the flavor profile of the basil. Makes it a little bit more bitter. And we have the sage here, which I still have sage from a couple years ago, believe it or not. But we'll go over to this side. This is a Roma tomato, and you can see that they're starting to set tomatoes on there. So I have a couple of Roma tomatoes in this bed, one right here and one right here. This one is actually covering up a lavender, unfortunately, that I just planted this year. I mentioned a couple months ago, I don't know why I planted these two so close together, and now I'm really regretting that. These are golden beets that are growing here. And this is actually a lemon basil. Lemon basil actually tastes okay when it goes to seed too. But this is my favorite for making like tomato salad, bruschetta, and stuff like that. This one is really good. So that's lemon basil that planted itself. and comfrey. We have a marigold and a tomato in here. This is a Paul Robeson tomato. I don't know. It's really kind of like an afterthought. It's just thrown in here. So I did mention that the in-ground garden requires less watering, which means that these containers that are not in the ground really didn't get as much water. So not good for the containers. If I go this way, this is a zucchini. Another example of me just throwing a plant in there, a transplant, and not watering it and it thriving. There's some germander over here. I've never grown it before. I just thought it smelled good. Here's a lot of jalapeno peppers. So if you remember, if you did see last month, this was all collards. So we took out the collards, we replaced it with the zucchini and the peppers, and also there's some phlox and some rudbeckia in there as well. These are radishes that can probably be harvested, and also that Roma tomato that I was talking about. So it's starting to set fruit. These are lettuce leaf basil, and the leaves do look like lettuce. In fact, Tim asked me the other day, he's like, we don't have any lettuce? And he looked at my hands and said, there's lettuce right here. No, it's actually basil. All right, these are more jalapenos. This is a mushroom plant that it's a perennial, so I'm excited about that. I don't like the texture of mushrooms, so we're going to try that out. These are stevia plants. So this is a stevia plant. This is a stevia plant. And those are used for sweeteners. So if you want to add a sweetened flavor to your teas, use stevia as an option, or check with your doctor. But you can use stevia as a sugar replacement. This is a little baby rosemary, because I love rosemary. And these are green onions. I talk about this garden bed all the time. This is the mint bed. Let's not talk about it, or the rosemary, or all this comfrey. But over here we do have some sunflowers growing. We had a self-seeded cucumber that planted over here too. But these are all sunflowers. I have a couple of cantaloupe that's starting to grow. Also a few watermelons. So the crimson sweet watermelon, crimson sweet and sugar baby watermelon, and also the sugar cantaloupe. And we also have some okra growing over here, so we eat a lot of okra. So about 3 plants over here. This is some kohlrabi that has to come out, but other than that, you're mostly seeing like lots of comfrey. So I'll cut this comfrey back and I'll lay it down in like empty areas, or I'll lay it down in this place, or we'll put it under some trees. But there's always comfrey in this garden. So if you want to learn more about comfrey, watch my May garden tour video. This is a self-seeded green bean. And there are lots of green beans on here that we're going to harvest together. Hold on. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there are lots of green beans on here. So we'll harvest those together. And this is another kind of example of why the raised garden has really done its thing. It's because something like this can just grow to its full potential, whereas in the raised garden bed it's like limited to the space into the trellis that's available. But here, the more trellising I give it, it can really just sprawl out. So this has gone crazy. So if you want to plant things and you don't want to have to worry about spacing, doing it in the ground obviously is going to give you more space than a container like a raised garden. And this is the Sunrise Sauce tomato. We've already made a sauce with this, a pasta. It was really good. We'll go ahead and grab these too. Those look like they're ready. And we have a cherry tomato that self-seeded itself. There's also a sugar I forget what it's called, but the sugar variety of the cherry tomatoes. I forget what it's called. It's over here somewhere. Sun sugar. All right, so it's the sun sugar tomato and probably some variety of like sweet 100 or something like that. But this has been self-seeding here for years. We'll go ahead and grab those as well. And we harvested all the carrots from this area. A couple hydrangeas in here, a couple of kale plants in here. But we harvested all the carrots that were overweeded in this area. So we have to clear out the weeds here again, replant it with something else. I'm not quite sure what yet. The cauliflower that was here needs to be replanted. At this point in the season, we are like halfway through. There's about like 90 to about 100, 110 days left in Zone 7B, Southern Maryland. So we're not planting like a lot of the exciting vegetables like tomatoes and peppers and all that. That stuff, you know, the ones we already have growing, they're going to keep growing on strong. But we're not planting any new varieties of those because they take a while to, they take a while to mature. So we're going to focus on the brassicas and the carrots and radishes and maybe vegetables that can overwinter like onions and garlic. But you guys let me know down in the comments, what are you planting at this time of year in August? And what's still thriving for you? What are you retiring? Like me, we pulled out mostly all of the kale. It's time for that to go. It's time for a reboot. But I'm curious to know what you guys have growing. Uh-oh. Here's another example of how big and wide these herbs can get in the ground. This is fennel. Fennel has been planting itself here for years. And it just gets so massive in the ground. I grew dill in the raised garden bed and it was nowhere near the size that it could have been. So just another example of how you can really get the full plant potential when you're planting in the ground. I'm very proud of this tomato row here. We do have some sage here. I just recently planted this out with lettuce seeds. Yes, I do need to water them in. This is a blueberry that's a little sickly, so we'll probably need to fertilize that. But not too worried about it right now. We'll get to that. We have a whole plan for all the fruit trees and berries because we have so many at this point. We just went too hard, too fast. So that is on phase 2. We also have some Genovese sweet basil here. And we use a lot of that. I actually just harvested a bunch of basil from this garden and the raised garden. And we made some lemon basil vinaigrette and froze it for the winter time. Here, to me, this is an example, the third reason of why this in-ground garden has earned respect in my eyes. Not to mention that this spring we had a lot of wonderful greens, kale, broccoli, and all that, but we haven't really fertilized. We put these tomatoes in the ground and have not fertilized them. I'm not proud to say this. It's just that it's been so hot and we don't have as much time as we think we should have. So we haven't been able to do all the things we want to do. But these tomatoes, I mean, they're just really nice and healthy. And we haven't had to fertilize. And I think that's because once we composted and added mulch, even though the soil doesn't look the best, the plants can really tap into the nutrients within the ground. So with the raised garden, you get what you put in. And with the in-ground garden, you really are getting what's naturally deep down in the earth. So that's what I'm thinking. I could just be hypothesizing here, theorizing. These are the Dr. or the Dwarf Mr. Snows right here. They look a little squozen in here. These are the Dwarf Summertime Green plants. This is another Dwarf Summertime Green. This is supposed to be a Solano. I'm not quite sure. I've never grown a Solano variety before. We also have the Nepal variety, which looks a lot similar to this one. So maybe I got the tags mixed up. This is a dwarf parfait, and this is another dwarf summertime sweet gold. And I like these determinate varieties because they have like the potato leaves. I like that. Okay, so these are the tomatoes. We also have some different kinds of basil growing here. Lemon basil, lime basil, cinnamon basil, opal basil. So we'll see how that turns out. And this is an echinacea that just seeded itself. The pinks, this is borage that is going to grow. A marigold that's self-seeded underneath. A couple of marigolds here. Some parsley that was dying back under comfrey that I just cut back. Another blueberry that actually looks much better than the blueberry I just showed you. So that makes up this row here. This is the tomato row. On this side, the bee balm has said goodbye. The reason why I haven't cut it back is because I've seen birds eating the seeds and butterflies still landing on it. So I figured I'll just leave it here for now. It's not that I have anything better to do with it, so we'll leave that. And again, look how beautiful those marigolds are amongst the tomatoes. On this area, I had all of the dino kale. So I pulled all the dino kale. The summer got to it. So we have reseeded for fall. So broccoli, some more dino kale, some more dazzling blue kale, some Romanesco cauliflower. So all of this, once it grows, I'll start to spread the seeds out. I tend to like to grow a lot of seeds at once and then spread them out versus like trying to perfect my seed spacing skills. This is a sugar pumpkin that I just put in there a few weeks ago, and it looks like it's doing pretty well. We also have some dahlias here, and this is another black beauty zucchini. So I'll probably grab this too, and we can eat that for dinner. We have lots of squash in the fridge, so we need to eat squash for dinner. And these are actually ground cherries. They're called ground cherries because if you lift this up, you'll see all of the ground cherries that are on the ground. These have a tropical flavor. These have a tropical flavor. This one wasn't quite the best, but you can see they'll be yellow. This one has a tinge of green, but they have a tropical flavor. They taste really good. They're like the fruit version of a cherry tomato. And once you grow them once, they never stop coming back. So these are all ground cherries over here. You can make like jams and pies and stuff with them too. They taste really good. Okay, so that is this side of the garden. Okay, here's an example of one of the cons of this garden. And that is how easily the crabgrass just sneaks in. I mean, it sneaks in everywhere. It takes a lot of effort to keep these garden beds weeded. But if we don't keep it weeded like this, it would turn out to be kind of like this. So that's one of the cons. The other con is this clay soil. So you can see here, this is clay soil. It is dry and it is not pleasant to plant in. So we do add compost to this, but this is really clay soil. Lastly would be this huge tree right here that drops sweet gums into the garden beds every year. So these two are most effective. These two are most affected. This one is also affected, but these sweet gums drop into the garden bed, making it very difficult when harvesting and weeding. It is really hot out here. The reason why I am not a fan of growing these, they grew themselves, but it's because it's hard to see the green bean against the green leaf. So it takes me a while to kind of sort through. And as I'm de-beaning this, I'm getting swarmed by bugs. There are lots of bugs growing in these leaves.
and they do not want me disturbing them. The green beans, the more you pick them, the more, ooh, just spider right there. The more you pick them, the more they grow. So if you let these beans stay on the vine for a while, they will, the vines will die out. But it's so hard to see the beans because of the leaves. When I'm harvesting cherry tomatoes, it's hit or miss whether I take the whole vine or just peel them off like this, because when you get them in the house, you have to peel them off anyway. So it's really up to you. Okay, so that wraps up my synopsis slash tour of the in-ground garden. In general, this garden has earned some respect because the minimal needs for watering. So yeah, right now it does need to be watered. It is a hot day, but we have needed to water this garden like a fraction of the amount of time that the raised garden needs to be watered. So this garden to me is much more self-sustainable. Also, we have fertilized this garden a lot less. So the fact that it can tap into the natural resources of the soil has been a benefit to us, especially in the heat when we haven't been able to keep up with our garden maintenance and our garden routine. Lastly is the amount of space you have really dictates the potential size of the plants that you're growing. So growing herbs like fennel or plants like beans and tomatoes, they have a lot more space when you're growing them in the ground compared to the limitations that they have within the container. So in general, I have to say sorry to this garden. I have to give it an apology. So if you have been growing an in-ground garden or a raised bed garden, leave your pros and cons in the comments. I would love to see what your experience is. And if you want to see what we're growing in this garden in totality as of last month, or if you want to see the raised bed garden tours, you can click on this video right here. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Bye.